Anthrax covering a Joe Jackson song. Yep, Joe Jackson did that song, wrote that song. Anthrax did it on their Persistence of Time album. Got the Time, the name of that track. Going back to around 1988, something like that. Anthrax working on new music right now. Looking forward to it. Megadeth, Train of Consequences, one of my favorites from them. Such a cool riff. And we also had Metal Church, Watch the Children Pray. Some good old school metal from the Washington State area, and something brand new, Kill Devil Hill, Blood in the Water, the name of the track from their new album. And good to have them back doing stuff as well. It's Eddie Trunk. Almost done. We got a little more time left to go. I'm going to finish up with some of your phone calls right now, then play one last final song before signing off. Want to jump on the air about anything? It's 866-315-2663. And if you just tuned in, we had Donnie V, former singer and original singer of Enough's Enough. You can hear that interview on the app if you missed it. Appreciate Donnie joining me. Earlier on my first show on 103, Wendy Dio was on. That's on the app now for you to check out as well. And back live tomorrow and throughout the week, talking rock with you from 3 to 5 Eastern, live for the Daily Truncation on Faction Talk. That's channel 103, or anytime live or on demand on the Sirius XM app. There's also a podcast featuring a lot of my interviews from the show on 103, totally free on any of your favorite podcast platforms, including right here on the Sirius XM app. And be sure to follow me on social media at Eddie Trunk, Twitter, or at X. I can't get used to calling it X. X, Instagram, Facebook page. Keep up with everything I have going on. Going to be releasing more tickets to my 40th anniversary and radio event with Sammy Hagar, Michael Anthony, and a ton of surprise guests. December 11th, House of Blues in Las Vegas. More tickets up for grabs. You can buy them starting Friday, 10 o'clock in the morning, Pacific, 1 Eastern, through Ticketmaster. I've released more seats on the floor. All the proceeds will go to the Dio Cancer Fund. Join us for what's going to be a really, really epic night. Put on an original set of tickets that sold out instantly, and we'll see how these do. So good luck grabbing them starting 10 a.m. Pacific this Friday. Again, listen throughout the week. We've got great stuff lined up all week. Eric Martin of Mr. Big in studio with me on Wednesday. That's all between 3 and 5 Eastern time for the live show. Midnight Eastern for the replay on 103, or anytime, like I said, live or on demand after the live show on the Sirius XM app. Finish up with a few of your calls right now. We will begin with Josh in Kentucky. He's been waiting a long time. Go ahead, Josh.
Hey, Eddie. How you doing? Congratulations on your 40th anniversary in radio.
Thank you, Josh. Appreciate that.
No problem. I met you back at Rainbow back in 2016 when you said being friendly. But the reason I'm calling, I want to tell you, I was at a Danzig concert back on the 16th of this month in Newport, Kentucky. And from the stage, Glenn made the comment, everything you were hearing from the stage is live. We are not one of those bands that plays the track. And I know you always get excited when bands kind of call out those that don't play live at your live shows. I want to add Glenn Danzig to your list of celebrities to do that.
Yeah, well, that's awesome, and the reason why I get excited about that, Josh, is because I think it's the true death of rock and roll, the real death of rock and roll really being dead if we continue to go to shows and hear a computer instead of bands actually playing and singing live. And look, most of these bands are not going to name names of all of their contemporaries that are doing it, so by doing what Sully from Godsmack is doing and saying that, or doing what Glenn Danzig, that's about as close as it's going to get to calling those bands out without naming them and at least putting them on notice and letting people know that's not the way it's supposed to be done. So I appreciate the hell out of anyone doing that, because I see it as the biggest threat to real rock music, and it's completely wrong for people to be taking your money to hear them play live and go there and listen to a recording.
Yeah, absolutely. And for anyone that's on the fence about going to see Danzig on this tour, they're doing that. Danzig 1 in its entirety. And Glenn sounds great. I couldn't have had more fun. I've been to a lot of shows over the years, but I swear I think I had more fun at Danzig last week than I had any show in forever. It was just such a blast. So I definitely look forward to maybe seeing him again sometime.
Glad you enjoyed it. Thank you, Josh, for the call. I appreciate it, and thank you for listening. Here's John in New York joining us right now. What's up, John? Hello, John. John's phone is malfunctioning, not working so well. Hello, John. Here is Neil in Pennsylvania. What's going on, Neil?
Yeah, I am a big fan of yours, so, yes.
Neil, thank you for being a fan, but your radio is up. It's feeding back. It's screwing you up. That's why I was hearing myself in the background. Sorry, buddy. Got to have the radio turned down when you call. Here's Bill in Mississippi. Hi, Bill.
Eddie, hey, man, I was reading an article a week or so ago talking about the replacement drummer for AC/DC coming up for the Power Trip Festival. And the interviewer was interviewing Chris Slade. And I can't quote it because I don't have the article in front of me, but it basically, Chris Slade said, yeah, they've got a replacement drummer for the festival, and that he's going to be right in the back, right where Angus wants him. And that just sounded kind of negative to me. And
what did he say? What was the last part, Bill?
He said that Chris Slade said that AC/DC found themselves a replacement drummer for the festival, and that he would be at the back of the stage, right where Angus wants him. And that just, I took that, it just sounds kind of negative to me, and it's just so, that's the first negative thing that I've really ever heard anybody say about, Angus or AC/DC in general.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, no, but I mean, I don't know if I can read too much into that, because if you think about it, where are drummers? They're in the back of the stage. Every drummer's pretty much in the back of the stage, except for the few that set up sideways or close to the front. So, it might come off sounding a little dismissive or negative, but I don't know if it, without having really heard it or been able to pick away at it a little bit, I really don't know how that's to be perceived.
I got it. I wasn't sure if you were aware of that. Like I said, I can't remember who it was. I remember reading it, and it's just, I remember that one quote. It was just, it just sounded negative to me. It was just so out of character for anybody. You know what I mean? It was like, just kind of dissing on Angus when he said it. And on that note.
Thank you for your call, Bill, and I understand how you could take it that way, but I don't really know the context of it, so I can't say, and I can't jump on anything for that. I mean, it could very well be that Chris Slade's not too happy about not having the gig in the band anymore. A lot of people were hoping it was going to be Phil Rudd. Phil Rudd cannot enter the country. I don't know if he can leave New Zealand. Phil Rudd had very, very serious charges against him, which I believe he pled guilty to or something. I mean, I don't know how many people know the story about Phil Rudd. It's a wild story, but apparently he put out a solo record like 8-9 years ago. He was pissed off that it wasn't getting any promotion. Kind of was like, obviously not in a good headspace or whatever he was dealing with, and he basically like ordered a hit on his assistant or someone because they didn't feel like they were working the record properly. That factored with other stuff. He, had serious charges, obviously, and did some time and whatever the case may be, and now he is very restricted about where he can travel internationally. So he didn't come as too much a surprise, because a lot of people saw it coming that Phil Rudd was not going to be able to leave New Zealand and be able to play with AC/DC. And he's not. The drummer that they've already announced in his place, I believe his name is Matt. I talked about it on my daily show 2 weeks ago when it all went down. Week ago, whatever it was. Matt Log is his name. I think his first name is Matt. Last name is Laug. Session guy, has played with a bunch of different people, including Slash and others. And that's all we know. He's like in his mid-50s, LA guy. And he's going to be playing. And look, the bottom line is, I mean, AC/DC is about Angus and Brian at this point, right? I mean, Cliff Williams is still there. That's great. Stevie Young is there for his, the nephew of Malcolm. Of course, is no longer with us, and now Phil Rudd can't get in the country. So you got three of the classic guys, if you will, and Brian, Cliff, and Angus. There was even some concern whether Cliff was going to do this because he had retired. But they said they're pulling him out of retirement to do this show, so that's good. And I'm sure this guy will do a great job playing drums. Ideally, you'd always like as many original members as possible. It would have been great if Rudd could have done it, but let's be brutally honest. The Rolling Stones didn't sell one less ticket because Charlie Watts isn't there. You think AC/DC is going to sell one less ticket because Phil Rudd isn't there? The hardcore fans are going to care, but they're still going to go, and the casual fans have no clue anyway. Here's Hal in Tennessee. What's going on, Hal?
Hey, what's happening?
Hey, man.
My question was, I love Megadeth, I love Megadeth, but it seems like Megadeth just has a lot of band members all the time. Some of the originals might play on an album, some of the originals might go on tour, but it seems like they just had a lot of turnover over the years, people in and out.
That would be a fair statement, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, is Dave that bad of a guy to work with? I mean, I would think not. He's cool to me.
Well, you don't know him. You're not on a bus with him. You're not on the road with him 250 days of the year. That's
very true.
An outsider's perspective on somebody is very, very different than when you're in a band with somebody. That's a completely different thing. So I can only say positive things about Dave Mustaine. But again, I'm not in a band with them. I'm not sharing a bus with them. I'm not sharing a stage with them. I see him from time to time. Hey, Dave, what's up? Hey, Eddie, how are you? We talked for a little bit. We've done a ton of interviews. Never a problem. But again, there's a big difference between that and being in a band with somebody. And look, Megadeth has always been Dave Mustaine's thing. So when you say there's a lot of turnover, I mean, in a way, you can almost think of Megadeth as a solo project in some ways for Dave Mustaine. It's a band in name, but we all know everything begins and ends with Dave. It's his band. He put it together. He's calling the shots, and that's just how they roll. Some bands are set up like that. Others really are more of a democracy. So that's really, I think, what it comes down to.
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right, Hal, thank you for the call. I mean, you got to remember, these bands have like 40-year histories now. And over the course of the 40 years, people change, and who's on drugs, and who's on alcohol, and who's not on either, and who's got this vice, or this addiction, or this personality problem, or whatever. It's a lot. It's a lot to hold these things together. Bands are like marriages. More than 50% of marriages fail now. More than 50% of band relationships absolutely fail. But many of them actually last longer than most marriages to start. So it's just, how each band is set up. And, it doesn't all come down on Dave. I mean, Dave makes the call. It's his band. But David Ellefson was in and out of the band twice, and Ellefson was let go by Mustaine over something having nothing to do with music at the end of the day. Kiko recently left Megadeth temporarily to go back with his family, and he had some family stuff to deal with, so it's all case by case. But yeah, Megadeth has had a lot of turnover, but I think a lot of that is, at the end of the day, it's Mustaine's vehicle. It always was, it always will be. Here's Kara in Arizona. Hi, Kara.
It's Tara. Hi, how are you?
Tara, I'm sorry. Hi, you're on the air.
Hi. I just wanted to let you know I sent you in a DM, but then again I thought you might think I'm some sort of lunatic in the dark. The band that Donnie B's guitar player Josh plays in is called 10 Cent Revenge.
So you know his guitar player better than he does, clearly.
Well, big play here. But that's the name of the band, and they're really good, so you should check them out. And I just wanted to give you that little tidbit. Thank you for always flying the Y&T flag. They have been criminally overlooked by the people at large. and to keep doing you. That's all I really wanted to say.
Thank you, Kara. Appreciate that very much, and I will keep an eye open for that band, 10 Cent Revenge, I think. Tara said. Sorry, Tara, they wrote Kara. I don't think that band was playing, but that's the band that the guitar player came from. I mean, look, Donnie only knew about Alex Kane being in his band, and I'm sure Alex put the rest of the band together. And again, that's not uncommon. Donnie was super honest about where things are at for him at this point in his career, and he's just going to go out and do a couple gigs. I mean, many times I've been around bands and they don't know who is in their band. Famously, I interviewed George Lynch at the event that I host in Key West every year, Rock Island, which is coming up again early next year. And I interviewed George from backstage there on the last one, and I asked George who was in his band for Lynch Mob, and he didn't know. He had to poke his head out the trailer and say, "Hey, who's playing with us tonight?" I mean, it's the business now for the level some of these guys are at. They just pick up who they pick up with, and they go out there and they do what they do.